Australian Owned is a brand new company established this year to help Aussies to easily identify, shop and spend with Australian-owned businesses, services and products. Now, many once proud Australian companies have been sold off and their profits do go overseas. The Australian-owned certification gives businesses a distinct market advantage over foreign-owned businesses. Eddie Kokwa is the founder of Australian-owned and he joins me on the line now. Eddie, great to have you on 4BC Drive.
Thanks, mate.
Now, what's the basis behind creating this company? It is a Brisbane-based company, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Look, we wanted to create something so the general public could help Australia recover from coronavirus. We wanted, obviously, customers, when they go shopping, to be able to determine what companies are Australian-owned, so they know that their hard-earned dollars are actually helping, improve this country.
Yeah, and look, what's the difference between this and, say, the probably the better-known Australian-made brand?
Well, look, Australian-made's fantastic. It's been around for a number of years, but it doesn't represent that businesses are Australian-owned.
So just clarify that for me, Eddie. What that means is they might be made in Australia, but in fact, the company itself could be owned by an overseas company.
Yes, that's exactly true. And a great example is RM Williams. Some of their stuff is made in Australia, but it's owned overseas. So the profits, the control of the company is not in Australia.
So a lot of people out there, shoppers out there, might get confused and think when they see Australian made, they see that little kangaroo symbol, they think they are buying from an Australian-owned company, but all it means is that the product has been made here in Australia.
That's correct, yes. So that's the whole basis behind this Australian-owned logo is to give shoppers the full knowledge so they know they spend the money, it stays in Australia.
Now, does that mean also that the product itself has been made in Australia?
Okay, so we have a star rating system to determine if the product's been made in Australia or not. So if it has 3 stars, you can be fully assured the product was made in Australia.
So made and owned in Australia?
Correct.
Yeah.
Australian-owned and made, produced and whatever else in Australia. The other thing about Australian-owned is it also applies to service-based companies as well. So, for example, you might have Mate NBN, that's their NBN provider. If they're obviously an Australian-owned company, all their staff work in Australia, their call centres are in Australia, so they're a 3-star Australian-owned certified company.
Now, what's the reaction been to this since you started it, and probably only about 6 months ago or so?
That's right. The reaction's been absolutely phenomenal. We've had over 3,000 companies apply so far. We've got some big companies on board. One of them is called Procal Dairies. They are a massive dairy company in Victoria, and they're proudly displaying the logo now at some shopping centres all around the country. Describe
what the logo looks like. As I said, I mentioned the Australian-made logo. What does your logo look like?
Our logo incorporates the Southern Cross and also the map of Australia and the green and gold famous Australian colours.
So if they see that stamped on that, they know it's Australian-owned. And that you mentioned those stars before. Are they on that displayed as well?
Yes, they're displayed on the bottom of the logo as well. So you either have 1, 2, or 3 star. Now, it's just important. It's important to be Australian-owned. Obviously, our criteria is that you have to be 80% Australian-owned. And so if you get that, if you're 80% Australian-owned, you get 1 star. And then if you can prove that you make the product in Australia, you get 3 stars.
Now, I'm sure a lot of people listening today loved this idea because I think people want to not only buy something that's made here, but also ensure that the company actually is owned here as well. And I think there's a lot of confusion out there. So hopefully this will clear it up, make it very clear. And now if someone wants to has got a company out there and wants to get your logo on their products, how do they go about that?
Very, very easy. It takes 2 minutes. Just go to www.ausowned.com.au, hit apply now, and you get signed up straight away. It's free for anyone under $2 million. And over $2 million, it's free until 2021.
Now, and in terms of buying these products, I assume you said there was thousands of people, thousands of companies been interested in this. I assume there's not just one place you can buy these. It'd be spread across lots of retail outlets.
That's right. I mean, so anyone who's got a product for sale, they'll be displaying the logo on their product. But also, as I said, it applies to services as well. For example, now we can help Australians shop with, for example, Aussie-owned electricity retailers. So it's got a broad scope, this whole campaign.
So not just product, but also services all across the whole range.
Everything, that's right.
And what's the reaction been, say, from the people who the Australian made? Because the Australian made run by the government.
Well, I think it's a non-for-profit. I've reached out to them. They haven't been able to get back in touch with me. But we're just running our own thing. Australian made is a great thing, and it's done a great thing for the country. But I believe personally it's lost its relevancy in the last sort of 10 to 20 years. A lot of companies have pretended to be Australian for too long, and we didn't know. But the coronavirus has highlighted that. It's very important for companies to be Australian-owned. So, one, we keep the profits here, and two, we've got the control. So I'm hoping that this initiative really does some good for the country.
Well, you said you've had a good response from companies wanting to take it up. What's the response been from people buying these goods? I assume they're pretty positive about it as well.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, there's a massive group on Facebook. It's got 1.7 million people in it, Products of Australia. And you just got to have a look on there. And our companies that have signed up with us are posting in there every day, and they're getting a lot of support from the general public. The general public wants to do what it can to help this country. We've got a lot of debt coming on, and if the general Joe can go to the shops and make a decision where to spend his money based on the company being Australian owned or not, that's a very, very important thing.
All right,
Make a big difference.
All right, Eddie Cocker, thank you for joining me on 4BC Drive.